Fairgrounds USA, countyfairgrounds.net. Welcome to today's podcast.
Hi, Mr. Marc Dobson. I understand you're the one-man band. Is that right?
That would be correct. That's what I go by and attempt to define what a one-man band is.
Okay, so do you want to tell our listeners how you got started in being the one-man band, please?
That's a long story, but I will do my best to condense. When I was 17, when I was a street performer, my first real gig as a musician. I come from Halifax, Nova Scotia, where there's a great buskers festival. 30 years ago, I did my first tour busking across the streets of Canada, hitchhiking all across Canada. And back then, I had somebody suggested that I do a one-man band because that would be a neat kind of street show or whatever. And I got some drums and I failed. I didn't complete it. I didn't have the, in short, all the skills necessary, I guess. And I didn't have power tools and know how to cut things and just and then a business plan and all that stuff. And then we'll go fast forward to, I'm counting years, right, 21 years later, after I got a partial Bachelor of Music, toured the world playing across Europe, Canada, the United States, the Caribbean, and national acts, playing everything from funerals to weddings to I played a baptism and just surprise parties, corporate events, played with the Temptations, the Drifters, played with Canadian national acts, Sam Moon, and anyways, after all that, a person from the Celebrity Impersonator Network, I used to also do a Neil Diamond tribute. She, an agent, put out a lead for a one-man band, and I responded to it thinking that she meant another thing I'd done for a long time was perform by myself with backing tracks. And I started making backing tracks before the word karaoke even existed here. But anyways, she said that we talked for about 5 minutes on the phone. And then I said, do you mean like a real one-man band, not the guy with the track? She said, yeah. And I said, oh. And I said, well, I tried to do that when I was 17. And that was the last weekend of March 2010. And within the first month, April, I had a version of my backpack drum kit up and running and played it at a gig that night. And now it's 9 years later.
Okay. So
that's the short version. There's lots of details I left out. Go ahead.
You must have gotten interested in music when you were in high school, right?
Yeah, actually earlier than that. Interest in music for me comes from I'll say very politely, I had absent parents, and I got involved in the elementary school stuff, and then I played tuba for 8 years, and then I picked up guitar, and guitar became a great escape for me and a learning thing and a way to meet girls and then hang out with my buddies and play and musicians are somewhat like doctors who prescribe drugs. We get to enact endorphins like all other entertainers inside us. And so, if we make people happy, cry, sad, mad, enacting an emotion stems from those I'm saying the wrong word, endorphins, same thing that doctors prescribe when we get that high off of drugs. But yeah, so I started at a young age and learning about all those wonderful things.
Yeah, and you like having girls scream at you, right?
It gets less exciting the older you get, but my favorite thing is still when I'm able to perform something and people cry, because it's easier to enact, and people want to laugh, people want to have fun, people want to be, in that good mode. But when and not that you make somebody feel sad, but you bring tears of joy out of somebody, then that's a heart-touching experience for me.
Okay. All right, you've had a lot of experiences. You've had a lot of experiences, so can you tell me about a couple of your most favorite memories?
Well, I just went on the heart-touching thing. So I'll tell you, and this has happened a few times. I'll go back a year ago. Right now, I'm driving in my truck, and I'm in Iowa, and I'm driving to the Nebraska State Fair, and this is my third year performing there all of the days of the fair. And last year, I had been working out this bit. I'll call it a bit. It's, it's something that I do before a song, and I pay tribute and honor veterans. And the way that I figured out, it took me a few months to just keep on doing it until I got it down. And what I do is I get all the veterans to put their hands up, and I use kind of like forceful language, and you stand up, and then I get them to come and line up in my show. And a lot of times I do street shows, so I always wait till this is the end of the show, and I get them there, and then I go down the line, and if you ask them where they served, they will all say it, like spit it out like that, and I shake their hand and say thank you for your service, and then I'll turn around to the crowd and say, now, ladies and gentlemen, it's your turn. As I sing this next song, I want each of you to come here and shake this gentleman's hand and thank him for his service. And then I sing God Bless the USA. So that wasn't how it started. I kind of had a haphazard way getting into it, but that's the preamble. Then I sing the song, and then it's over. And every time now, people come up to me and thank me. But that time, 1 year ago at the Nebraska State Fair, I did it. And then a gentleman in a wheelchair came up to me, and he was crying. He was like 80, 90 years old. And he could, he got the words out, but he had a hard time. And he said, you reminded me of my dad, and we lost him in World War II. And thank you so much. And then he wobbled away. And then, but at that point I went, okay, I got the bit down. That guy was touched, and so was I. And I've been able to reenact that many times. Even the West Virginia State Fair, if you end up on my Facebook just last week, they gave me a spot, a great performance spot, where I was able to do that bit and honor the veterans quite a few times. And then I had quite a few comments, people just, thanking me on Facebook for doing that. But then I always have to turn around because no, thank you for your service. I'm honored to have been able to mention you and bring you into the show. So that's one of my favorite things.
Well, Mr. Marc, I get the feeling you like making people happy, right?
Well, yeah, that's the job. That's, an entertainer, and especially on a fairground, the job description is leave people with lifetime memories. I'm not selling anything else. That's it. It's memories, and happy memories are good.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, I have to ask you, are there any shows or any fairs, places that you would like to perform that you have not performed?
All of them. No, right now, what am I working on? I'm working on my spring California route. And so I got Sac County Fair. I should be repeating Alameda County Fair. So right now it's really specifically, there's like 2 or 3 weeks in between those fairs in California. San Bernardino Fair, I haven't contacted them, but I'll be hitting them up saying, hey, I'm going to be in the area. And then also, but that's a really slow time of the year, spring. So I don't expect to get too much, but I want to fill my spring out, which is a slower time of the year. And then at the opposite, then in November of next year, I'll be in North Carolina and South Carolina and Georgia again. And but I'm pretty happy. Like I work more than most fair entertainers, so it's good.
Okay, so
you're
a grounds act, and you walk the grounds. So how long is your show when from the time you start? So you can't do it for the whole time the whole fair is open.
Yeah, so I do. My contract says 3 or 4 half-hour shows per day, and so okay. Yeah, I do walk and play. However, when a lot of people look at my act the first time, that's kind of what they think. I do 3 types of shows with my one-man band on fairgrounds, and one is strolling through the fair, and I kind of parade, but I have an assistant to drive my wagon behind me. And then the thing that not a lot of people realize or whatever, but I'll point out, I pre-show other events. And so demolition derbies, pageants, anytime when there is a crowd gathered up and they're waiting for something, then, and as long as I can get in and out of the area safely, I come in and put on a show, and I can do grandstands up to 2,000 people. And I do that because not only do I have, whoever's listening to this right now, I kind of got to just give a description of what I do. I play a backpack drum kit, which sounds like a real drum kit, and I play guitar, and I have this bass rig in it, and I sing. And when you don't see me, when you're an earshot away or whatever, I sound like a band. It doesn't always come across on a phone or on a speaker like that, because people will be looking at it and you're distracted. You might not think it's real. Well, it's real, and then I have a pretty massive speaker system on a battery powered wagon that's motorized. And so I come in, and I sound like a band. I carry the same amount of sound on my sound wagon that I did back in the 80s when I got my first big PA and played, big clubs and stuff. It's smaller nowadays, but it works, right? And then I'll end with, I do three things: the strolling, pre-show to other shows, and then I do street shows, which is kind of my forte. I have a bunch of tricks and things and whatever. So I'm not strolling, but I set up in one spot and I gather a crowd. And for a fair, usually I say, the heart of your fair, where the center of the fair is. And if I'm surrounded by food vendors and whatever, like at the West Virginia State Fair, that there's a great spot there that I played, and it benefits everybody. The fairgoers get an experience, and then the concessions will get a hit when I'm done the show. So, yeah.
I'm a little curious. Have you ever seen anybody else do the kind of thing you're doing?
Yes. A friend of mine, Paul Bandoloni, out of Canada, he has a very similar act to me, and he's in fact the guy who couldn't make the gig in Ottawa that sparked the phone call that I got years ago. He and I are friends. There's another guy, Eric Haynes, he takes a different approach. He doesn't sound quite as much like a band that Paul and I do, but he's also very good and does some characters. And then there's Bernard Snyder from Europe. There's Marc Giuseppe over in Italy. Both those guys are in Italy. And there's quite a few guys in the world. And I've come to find out people younger than me or whatever, there's quite a few of them that follow me. And now, when I started, I looked up a whole bunch of guys. And especially Bernard Snyder, he really impressed me with his snare work. But now there's guys who, like the one-man band of India, he got on the India's Got Talent. I've spoken to him a few times, and he was influenced by me. So, yeah. But I don't know. Did I cut you off? Were you going to say somebody that you knew or anything? Or I heard that infliction.
I was just thinking, Mark. You know what you sound like to me? A gypsy.
What?
Do you have a home?
Yeah, but I spend more time. Yeah. I spend more time in my travel trailer on fairgrounds now than I do in my home in Florida. And as another part of my story, I don't know how much you reviewed my website, but my son, up until last year, had played with me. He's 16, and he didn't want to be on the road anymore. He wanted to finish high school, but he spent 2 years performing full-time with me, playing an instrument called a tubulum, which is the most popular tubulums are performed and played by the Blue Man Group. I built 3. The third one worked the right way, but the one that we used the most, which we still have, has 204 feet of 2-inch PVC pipe and fittings and 33 notes. So it was the one-man band with the tubulum. And then my wife was also with us, and she was the helper, and she would drive the motorized wagon behind me. So I would lead, and then the wagon would come with all the sound system, and then the caboose per se, the tubulin was on wheels, and he'd be in the behind. And when we strolled through a ground, we go through like that, or set up in all the scenarios that I just spoke about. And then there's my daughter, and my daughter is coming on board. She was my helper this year out in California at the Alameda County Fair, which is an awesome 4-week fair outside of San Francisco. And then she's also, her first job in life is actually a professional elf helping out a Santa Claus that I know very well. And I also got a new thing. I have bought the robot, which is being worked up, and he's pretty good right now, but I'm upgrading the sound system and adding lights, and I have to build an animatronic head to put on the thing. And in the end, he's already a singing, rapping robot, but with a louder speaker system and a heads-up display similar to a display that's inside a motorcycle helmet. Bought the robot. It's going to be a singing, rapping robot who will come up and get your name and your location or whatever, and then sing you a song inside of 30 seconds that talks all about you. And then goes on.
That's cool. That's cool. You were starting to worry. You were starting to worry me. I was beginning to wonder if you had a home because you sound so much like a gypsy.
Oh no, I have a home, and I have 2 homes really. I have my house and all that, and then I have and in that house I have my garage, which has become too small now for all the stuff that I build and all the tools and everything. So I'm like really want to move right now and trying to position ourselves into that spot where I can get a house at least an acre, if not like 5 acres, with a workshop in the back, because that's I need my dog house and place to screw around with things.
Okay, here's a good question for you. Now that we've had this nice interview and people have learned all about you, how easy are you to reach if somebody wants to book you for something?
MarcDobson.com with a C, MarcDobson.com.
Yeah, you got a pretty cool website. You're also on Facebook, right?
Yeah, the one-man band, Marc Dobson. And both of those will lead you to all the other stuff, YouTube and Instagram. And I really leave my trail, though. I guess I'm of the age. I'm the Generation X, and I latched onto Facebook and stay there, and that's why our kids aren't there. They don't go there. So anyways, but my my website is, thank you for calling it cool, but my weekly updates and everything, if you want to, see my complete history, if you end up on the one-man band or the one-man band Marc Dobson on Facebook, then everything's there. But not the crucial information. Right. And then you can just call me too, right? I answer my phone. No, I'm not such. If I don't recognize a number, I almost didn't answer on you. You have an 800 number or an 888. And I was like, what's that? Right. And I was, and I almost didn't answer. So, yeah.
Well, that's how we interview, because it hooks up to a service. So.
Okay.
All right. So, is there anything else you want to add?
Is for entertainers out there, if anybody's younger or getting into it, the fair market can be rough, but it's something you got to get into. And for me, the things that have worked for me is when I get into a fair and work for them, is I add value. I add legitimate value, and I find ways that I don't just do one thing. I'm as the one-man band, I'm just playing drums and singing and doing, but I'm able to do it in multiple ways and solve things. And when I come in, I don't ask for things. I solve all my own problems. I come in and I get noticed. I choose to be on the fairground and put myself in pitch situations where people will see me and talk about me. And so, working in the fair market can be pretty rough. And if you're younger, it's, and you got to have a niche. You got to have some way to distinguish yourself from everybody else. And, magicians have a hard time doing that, but if you find something, go for it. Magicians, walk around characters, all those things. You gotta find that niche and stick out, and then be nice and be able to pass a background check. and that's what I want to leave you with. Not just Pat, but that's and if anybody listening, if you actually have a question for me and you're an entertainer for me, go to my website, find my phone number, give me a call. I'll give you my time.
Thank you, Mr. Marc. Have a nice drive.
All right. Bye-bye.